I know I'm late to the party on this one. I'm working on the series of movie reviews in anticipation for the final Hobbit movie, but you don't want to hear about that. You want to hear, or I assume if you clicked on a video, you want to hear my thoughts on this week's episode of The Flash. It's actually the mid-season finale. And we finally get a clear, or the most clear, sign of the Reverse Flash that we've gotten all season. And when I first heard that Reverse Flash was going to show up this early in the series, I thought, really? Because I don't know if he's the big bad of the Flash universe. He's up there. He's definitely in the top 3, top 5 of Flash's villains, but again, considering how they were really trying to weave this mystery around the identity of the Reverse Flash, I found it kind of weird that they were going to unveil him as a villain in the, what is it, 9th or 10th episode? I think it's the 9th episode. But for the most part, this was a very good mid-season finale. I really got into it. First of all, the characters had some very personal dilemmas. Namely, Barry and Caitlin had some very personal dilemmas this episode. Barry finally got a chance to fight the guy who murdered his mother, and he lost both times, no contest. And at the same time, Caitlin finally learned that Ronnie was alive, which we already know he's going to become Firestorm, so it really isn't a surprise to us. But we finally got some insight into what he's been doing, what kind of mental state he's in. That'll be interesting to find out more about. So, really, the best way I can describe this episode is that it introduced us to some very interesting new developments, while at the same time offering, I don't want to say closure, but offering a sense of climax to some of the drama that has gone on so far on the show. What I mean by that is Barry finally tells Iris how he really feels, which I'm glad that they did not drag that out. I'm really sick and tired of this cliche of, this is teenage melodrama stuff right here about the main character really wanting to tell the girl he likes how he really feels, but he just can't bring himself to do it, blah, blah, blah. And how they went about it, I felt, was actually very mature in that he told her and all the cards were laid out on the table, but at the same time, this current status quo, for the time being anyway, is still the same. She does not just drop what she's doing with Eddie and go and be with Barry. There's really just a sense of, okay, all the cards are out on the table, and we'll just see where it goes from here. There's not really a whole lot said past that, which, again, I felt was a very mature way to handle it. And as for the Reverse Flash, or Professor Zoom, whichever name you want him to go by, I also like the fact that they kept him in the shadows for the most part. Or not really in the shadows, but they did kind of the blur thing where you can't really clearly make out his face or really any distinct features about him. He was kind of vibrating, so you couldn't really make anything out. Which, again, is a good way to keep the mystery up, while at the same time introducing us to what will eventually become the penultimate villain of the Flash TV show, or at least that's how they're setting him up. Although my biggest exposure to the Reverse Flash character, I have to admit, is the animated movie The Flashpoint Paradox, where he was voiced by C. Thomas Howell. Now, do I like that one better than this one? Yes, but again, we haven't really seen much of this one, and this might be something that I elaborate on further when I get to the Arrow review. But for the most part, yeah, I like this episode of The Flash. The drama was good, the action scenes were good, the characters, I still liked how they were interacting off of each other. This show is still going relatively strong. Again, I'm very surprised by how well this turned out. I mean, it's The Flash. This is a B-list DC comic book hero. and they're handling Flash and Green Arrow are by no means A-list DC Comics characters. I mean, when I think of A-list DC Comics characters, I think of Batman, Superman, and maybe Wonder Woman. Flash and Green Arrow are faring better than the supposed DC cinematic universe that they're trying to build, which is really sad on the part of the movie executives over at Warner Brothers, while at the same time it really says a lot of positive things about the creative team behind these two shows, and actually has me kind of optimistic about the Supergirl show that they want to do. Although that kind of raises some interesting questions about, how different is it going to be from Smallville. But I digress. I'm completely going off topic. This was a very good mid-season finale and introduced us to two new characters, Firestorm and Reverse Flash. It did it in a very interesting way without necessarily giving away too much. We still don't know a whole lot about these two characters, but this episode made me want to know more, and it actually took some major steps in two of the season-long arcs that they've set up. A, Barry's relationship with Iris, and B, Barry's obsession with finding the Reverse Flash. So, yeah, very good episode, I thought.